When I originally founded Bend, I never imagined it becoming a big city. And because of that, I nearly gave up on it entirely. My early urban design choices were questionable. A disconnected street pattern, repetitive assets, and perhaps worst of all, building a suburban roadway network right in the heart of downtown. And while I was ready to completely move on from the city, that's not how it works in the real world. Cities redevelop, they reimagine, and they reinvent themselves. Let's be honest, I don't have the patience for that today. So instead, we'll be taking a to Bend to make way for the city it was always meant to be. Today, we're going to redo the entire transportation network in Bend. That includes planning out new local roads, bringing the train closer to downtown, and ensuring that roadway hierarchy makes sense everywhere. The one thing we won't do is bring a freeway downtown, because to make that feel realistic, we have to make sure that we're retrofitting it into the city, not building it anew. So let's bust out our and disrespect the topography for maximum realism. Before we get started, I feel like I have to talk about what we're doing and why we're doing it. Basically, when I initially built the Magnolia County map, the editor wasn't available, and at that time, the only way that you could make a map was to modify an existing map. So this is River Delta, and Bend is the starting tile on that map. And at the time, I didn't know how to move the starting tile. I actually wanted the main city to be over here where Paradise Bay is. So I always thought I'll just build a small town here and then use the revenue I generate from that town to purchase tiles over here. But the longer that I built over here, the more I liked this area. So it became the city that it is. But the problem is, I didn't really plan for this being a large city, and as a result, it feels very disjointed, and there are a lot of things that just feel very unnatural. I feel like the whole roadway network feels like a small town was right here. We increase the density, and then there's a whole bunch of random stuff on the outside. So what I'd like to do is make it feel like Bend was a small town that rapidly grew. And for that to feel realistic, we need to have a replicable grid that seems to have sprung from downtown Bend. So that's going to mean that we need to go through a lot of the areas that are surrounding it and wholesale demolish things. So Mineral Shores, Jefferson Park, Rosewood Croft, Canterbury, Uptown, Riverside, Riverbend Park, they are all going to go. Now, additionally, I really want to bring the train into downtown Bend. I'm not sure exactly how close we'll get to it, but basically the train station that we have here is a retrofit of the original train station, which was a custom train station once I learned how to make those. Because for a time, there weren't really any train stations in the game, and making your own custom train station was the best that you could do. But now that we have better train stations, I want to bring something maybe like right here that feels more connected to downtown Bend. We're also going to need to take a look at all the transit in the area because we are going to demolish a bunch of our existing transportation network. That opens up an opportunity to maybe bring in a bigger bus station, which is something that many of you mentioned probably needs to take place if we want it to function appropriately here in downtown Bend. Maybe we can even bring in a tram station as well. And since we're redoing all that transit, I've removed the transit timetables mod. Now, there are two reasons for this. Number one, we're going to need to really focus on getting our timetables right, and that's going to take time and effort, so I want to give it the time it deserves. And number two, after seeing the mod, another code modder decided to take the project on, so I have a feeling that the mod that comes out of that project will be much more stable in the long run, so I figure we'll hold out for that one. The other things I want to take on are redoing the harbor right here, and then adding a bridge across the river right here. This was removed at one point, and it's never really sat well with me that it's gone. We're going to bring it back. And now that we have our plan in place, let's bust out our sledgehammer and get building. Okay, I went a little bit harder than I expected to, but I think it's for the best. I ended up deleting a lot, basically everything over here, plus most of this area. Now, the whole reason that I wanted to do that is that I want to be able to grade this out and basically make it seem like this whole area was platted out without thinking about the terrain, because that's oftentimes what happened in historic American cities. So with that in mind, I'm going to do a whole bunch of grading. And here's where the most controversial grading will take place. Basically, this entire hillside right here where we were snaking around, just gonna do this. Okay, now before I go any further, I think I just want to create the grid out here. So I'm gonna start out with some of these major roads. And one of the things I want to accomplish is just really straightening this out. There we go. That feels much more orderly than that kind of winding road that we had before. And then over here, we'll continue straight and then cut into the hillside. Next, I want to line up this street right here with 2nd Street. And then I also want to link up Main Street, but I may reorient this. And the reason I say that is I want this to line up nicely with this road right here. So this is about 18 units apart. So I'll do the exact same thing right here. And then for Main Street, I just want to keep this nice and tight. And I think we'll go 10 there. And I'll actually go further because I don't want to disrupt this building right here. That's an important building to the city's history. Now I'm going to slope this out nicely because we've got some issues. We could take that to 4.8% across the board, which is incredibly fair. And now I want a road that just perfectly parallels the coast. Now from here, I want to do the exact same thing that we're doing here. So it's roughly 13 by 18. And now I want to link these together, and I may need to adjust this just slightly. Okay, and this is a great start, but it's just that, just a start. I want to extend things out this way and continue the grid because I really want downtown to continue along the coast. And this is going to be really important because eventually I want to take the train station and bring it into downtown. So just like I did over here, I'm going to continue my messy grid building throughout these neighborhoods. Now, there's obviously still a lot of work to do on the local roadway network, and we're still going to make a lot of tweaks to it. But before we go any further, I feel like we've got to focus on rail, and that's because the rail network is going to influence the way that the local roadway network lays out. So I'm thinking that we want to have a terminus station right about here. And if we were to do that, we really need to get rid of all of these roads right here. Now, I'm not quite sure whether I want to have this here or over here. there are two things that are going to influence that. Number one is where the tracks lay out. Number two is that I think that we need to have another arterial cutting through this neighborhood, linking downtown Bend to Rosewood Croft and Mineral Shores. So I think just looking at this could probably go right about here. So maybe it doesn't really matter where this lines up, and I'll focus more on the track layout. With that in mind, I'm going to add some of the upgrades here. I want to have the extra platforms, and I also want the tram terminal, but I don't think I care about the bus terminal. I will add the station services though. And now that we've added all of that, this also influences where I want to place this. And I do think pulling it closer this way is going to be helpful. I'll leave a buffer right here for some landscaping. I'll add a parking ramp across the street, and then I want the local road on the side right here. And there we go. I feel like this fits really well. I decided to move the parking away from the front of the building so that we have this really nice vista into the front of the facility that's unobstructed by this parking facility. Now, it does kind of just stop right here at the hillside. I think that's completely fine. Maybe we have some prominent structures that make it feel like there's some cohesion between the train station and whatever's over here. Now, let's get the tracks linked up. And this is always my weakest point. That means demolishing some of this affordable housing right here, unfortunately, and removing that existing train station. Now, the primary challenge is that we don't really have a lot of space right here. This actually makes me think that maybe the train station in an ideal world would go up another block or two. We don't live in an ideal world, so we're gonna try to make it work.
Oh, shit. Here we go again.
Can't do it. We'll do it live. We'll do it live. Woo! Thing sucks.
And I'll be honest, I think the fact that I don't know exactly what I'm doing makes me keep playing with this to an extent that's probably not healthy. So I'm going to try to stop. Now, before we move on from here, before I forget, I do want to take all of the passenger rail lines and move them into here. And the fun thing is we really only have two right now. We have the Amtrak and the local. And realizing that there's only two lines coming in here, I wonder if we shouldn't just get rid of the extra platforms for the time being, keep the parking, and then move those. And it kind of simplifies things for us.
It's been 84 years.
And that just makes a ton more sense, and we still have the opportunity to expand in the future. That also means we can get rid of the parking ramp. Yeah, I like that all a ton more. Now, one thing I was eyeballing is we have Chester Street right here going up and over the tracks. I think I want that to actually link into Amity Street right here. And the whole reason that I wanted to do that is to create a cohesive transportation connection to this waterfront right here. Otherwise, it is fairly disjointed. And at least this links this in with the rest of the roadway grid. To me, that feels really, really clean. Now, I mentioned that arterial connection, and I feel like that's where we have to go next, because that's going to go straight through the hillside. I've been giving this a lot of thought, and it just feels like another arterial is necessary right about here. And this is basically equidistant in between University and Main Street. So this would carry quite a bit of traffic in the future. The other nice thing is we can link this in right here and then connect right into Riverbend Boulevard. I don't think that we go beyond this though. If we go anywhere, maybe it's right here and then we end. And now I just have to link these two roads together, and that is usually quite the trick. So what I think I want to do is start the curve outside of the tunnel. Well, that didn't work. And I think this time I'll start on this edge. We have done some terrible things that I'm not proud of, but I'm going to try to rectify it. And the interesting thing is I can't manipulate the inside of the tunnel using Move It, so I can't totally fix this, but it's in a pretty good place. So I might just not let perfect be the enemy of good, live with a little bit of imperfection. After doing that right there, it's a pretty reasonable looking tunnel, or reasonable enough looking tunnel. The only thing that I want to do, that I want to see if I can do, is Control H this side of the tunnel to here. I think that I can live with this tunnel connection. I think it's actually pretty good. Now, I want this to link all the way to University. Let's finish that off. That is going to be an incredibly valuable connection. The next bit is going to be finding areas like Sterling at 4th right here and finding a way to fix these, because this looks really, really bad. There are really two different approaches. Node controller or Move It. I think in this particular instance, Move It is probably going to be easier, as we'll be making decisions about whether roads even need to connect through or not. And in this instance, what I'm going to settle on is keeping the connection, but making it messier. So we end up with this 5-way right here. I think right here, we get rid of that crossing and that light and maybe make that a 1-way. And now I feel like we get some texture and history here. It feels like this road was carved through after the fact, and I really like that now. One thing that I don't like is that this arterial kind of just stops before it goes anywhere. I feel like we need to rectify that. And honestly, the main way might just be to stop having this be an arterial. There's really no need for it. Basically, the reason that I had this arterial here is we had a bunch of lanes all coming together, and it was a way to make lane math make sense. This is another way, just kind of neck it down. We don't need to have all those lanes here. I don't know why we have them. And now that's a couplet. Perfect. Another area that needs considerable work is right here in Riverside. I think I like the idea of having kind of an awkward parcel right here. Maybe we get a larger building. And then right here by Cypress Wood Street, I want to clean this connection up with a little bit of a swoop. Looks a ton better. Now, I also feel like we could take Edgewood Street and link this in just like this, which again allows us to have a larger parcel right here. Maybe that's for a park or some other larger facility. And then finally, I want to figure out what's happening with Bedford Street right here. I'm not opposed to this teeing in before the bridge, but our connection must be more logical. It can't go up and over like that. I also like the idea of grabbing this road and connecting onto this one and doing something like this. Now, before we just make a new block right here, I kind of want to see if there's something that we can do to make this a green space. It feels like this could be a really special place if we play our cards right. Just turn this into a larger park right here. And then finally, this connection doesn't make a lot of sense. I'm not sure what I was thinking. So for the time being, I'm going to simplify it and fix this one as well. Now, this junction into this roundabout is pretty crazy. I feel like it's basically begging to be rebuilt. Now I want to reestablish that connection into North Fork. So we will need a drawbridge for this. Interestingly though, we didn't get the bridge. And that's because we actually lost a portion of our narrow seaway. So now that we've added that back in, we do have our drawbridge looking much better. Now the final change that I want to make over here is figuring out a way to link up Main Street with this bridge right here, because right now it just feels off. So what I've basically done right here is reestablish roadway hierarchy and connected what is Main Street, not Bayberry, all the way through here to University Avenue and across that bridge. The hierarchy just makes a ton more sense. So now there's one last, oh my goodness, I don't know what I've done. So there was one last big project that I wanted to take on, but I just look over here and we've got 7,500 people that don't have access to sanitary sewer. And as a result, the county is dying. So I need to figure out where this connection was made and disconnected and reestablish that, because something really bad is going on right now. So that shouldn't do it right there, but I'm going to try anyway. It did something. That small connection apparently made all the difference in the world. Well, sometimes in these games, you make mistakes. I just made one. I'm going to hope that the city recovers. Wow, that was rough. But we've got a little bit of time to let it recover because we got two major projects that are related. The first is to reestablish the tram system here in Bend, and the second is to get our buses reestablished, including replacing that bus station. Checking out our trams, you can see that basically every route is incredibly broken. So let's go line by line and get them repaired. Starting out with the yellow line, this is a line that went to Ike Yards, and it actually used to go out to the train station, but I removed that stop. Right now, it's basically pinging back and forth between the new train station and whatever this building is over here. And then there are disconnected stops right here. So I think the first thing I want to do is reestablish a connection between Main Street and the rest of Main Street. And then we also have this turnaround right here that isn't going anywhere right now. I think I'm going to change that. We're going to run trams through this tunnel and then down the road right here. And even though these routes aren't exactly right, you can see that they are beginning to reestablish because we have circular loops once again. Not that loops are necessarily the goal. And then we'll work to get this fixed in just a moment, but I want to grab these tram depots and make sure that they are connected. Now, this road is linked up right here. That is way too close. That would lead to some backups. So I think I'm going to get rid of that roadway connection. And we'll send the trams down this way. I've got an idea though. I'm going to take this road and once again make it bi-directional. This will be transit only. The only reason that this exists is to get the trams through. And now with that, we should have trams at each of these routes, even if they're doing things that doesn't exactly make a lot of sense. And now before we go any further, let's grab a tram station. And I kind of like the idea of having a large tram plaza. I'm going to place that right about here, adjust the heights to the station, and then move all these connections over. And the interesting thing is we actually have stops on this street on the way up here. I think that we'll probably remove the track on this road, focus on it here. And then we've got some interesting stuff happening with this street right here. Because of this bus station, we kind of offset this road, but the original location for this road is a bit more ideal. So I think I'm just going to run this straight back here through the pedestrian road. And then after doing all of that, we can take all the trams that were here and move them into this facility. Now that looks better, but there's still lots of broken jank. And it just comes down to stops that don't exist anymore in the middle of roads that are no longer there. And once I get rid of those, things start to look better. So as I look at this, I just see a hub and spoke system, and we are not currently doing that. So we are going to make a few modifications. For instance, I don't think it makes a ton of sense that this yellow line has stops right here. I know we could have those there, but well, I didn't mean to do that. But basically, I don't think that running the tram down here at all matters. There's just not very much density, and now there's not really a destination either. So if we're gonna do that, we should probably run it down here past all of this density, and maybe right here where we will presumably have more density in the future. But I just think that it probably doesn't make a lot of sense anymore. So instead, we'll just reroute this. We'll get rid of these stops and have the yellow line turn right here, go into this station, and then from here, maybe we route back and go to this commercial district. And funny enough, I think I need to actually loop this back here. I can't just turn around. And there we go. That does the trick. Now, this should also have a stop straight downtown. It does. This one's good to go. The red and the blue lines are currently okay, but that doesn't mean that they couldn't be better. In fact, you can see that the clockwise route is fine. The counterclockwise route is totally broken. And I think for the time being, I may just have this circulate around by itself. We're in kind of an interesting spot for the red line. The counterclockwise route goes out this outer loop. The clockwise route is totally broken. So I'm going to eliminate this one. And the funny thing is the blue line and the red line are almost identical after all these changes. So I want to do a few things to differentiate them. And this route was a little bit more complicated to fix because we had to move a number of stops, but I think the net result of this is a good thing. We have much broader coverage in a larger swath of the community. And we also get some new coverage in some of the densest parts of downtown. So now just looking at those two routes combined, they do mirror some service, but they're providing access to different parts of the community. Now, I think that there's one more thing that I want to do with the trams. We have some legacy track right here. I'm going to remove these and then add track up this street. And I basically want to run this all the way out to Birdsong Downs. And this will allow us to reuse some of the track that we have right here getting into the downtown area. Eventually, when we have more land uses, we'll probably want to send a route off this way as well, and then maybe even across to Orchard Grove. But for now, this should do the trick. Our bus story is very similar. The one thing I want to do here for sure, though, is get rid of this bus station. And instead, we'll go with something much more substantial, like, for instance, the large city bus station. But this thing is truly large. There are not many parcels that we have in the downtown area that will fit this readily. So I think we're going to need to make one. And I love this location, but I'm very conflicted because I really want the design that looks the same as this. So we might need to plop this a few times. And there we go. That is the design I was hoping for. Mirrors that architecture. Just to me makes a ton more sense. Now, there is some weird janky stuff going on here. And look at this. Network tools can fix it. That is wild. And there we go. I really, really like this. I decided to adjust the heights here and try to make this fit a bit better, and I think it looks lovely. Now, these two stations are unique. This one allows us to have a subway interface. We don't have subways at this point in time, but we could, which is super cool. And we could also add more bus platforms in the future if we want. We may need to do that right away, but let's not get ahead of ourselves. Over here at the tram plaza, we actually have the ability to add a tram depot, which is an excellent feature. So let's move all of our bus routes into the station. And we were able to fit all of them in here, though some of these routes are doing some interesting things. And ultimately that comes down to weird waypoints. So I'm going to try to get rid of all of these. And okay, I think I've got all of the oddities cleaned up. And now it's just a matter of making sure that all the service that we're providing is actually doing things that are useful. Because right now you can see that there's a lot of deadheading. Obviously, there's no land uses right here, right now, but in the near future, there should be, so we wouldn't want to deadhead all over the place. And I think that reasonably, we should probably add some more stops. And now with all of those changes, all of our existing routes are more or less in place and looking good. Now it's just about time to start adding some land uses, but let's do a little bit of cleanup before we do that. And I'm noticing that we have a whole bunch of bus-only lanes that don't necessarily make a ton of sense anymore. And then I want to make sure that we have a connection by bike to the train station. So we'll run that down here. And just thinking logically about this, we're also going to extend this down here and to the multi-use path. Next, and kind of unrelated to anything, we're finally going to clean up this harbor. I think I'm going to hold off on replacing these with Joe's piers until I have a larger project in the next one. Let's stay focused and clean up the rest of our roads, making sure that we don't have any landscaping overlapping. And after the work that you just saw and a little bit more that I did off camera, I think everything is looking really good throughout here and really ready to start adding some land uses back in. Now, I will admit something. I was going to leave the video right here, but it just feels like we're right at the moment where we get to do some really exciting stuff. So let's begin with city services. I know that we are short on high school capacity, so that's where I want to begin. And that's because we removed a high school, but also because they've rebalanced high schools. So we are actually quite short on high school availability at this point. So I'm going to begin with a Northeastern USA high school, and I'm going to add that in over here. I think this is what we had over here initially anyway, or something similar. And then I'll break the grid right there and center this within the block. And we have a significant high school need, so I'm going to add the upgrade right away. And now we are significantly closer to meeting our need. One more high school should do the trick. And this time around, we'll go with the city high school, which fits really nicely right here. Though I think I want to center this thing a little bit more. And then I want to see if there are upgrades for this. There are. There's the extension floors that add some height. I'm going to go for it. Then there's also the rooftop sports park, which would have an excellent view of the river. I love that. Now there's also this road that goes all the way through. Kind of feel like we should frame this and place a road in the rear as well. And then after adding this high school, we do have enough capacity, though we're still teetering on the edge. I think it's going to be fine though. I'm also going to add an elementary school. Now, this isn't because we have a need. We actually have a ton of excess capacity. It's really because we got rid of the downtown elementary school, and I don't think that we have one nearby. The closest one is way over here. So without one being added back in here, these kids are going to be traveling a long ways to get to school. So to stay on theme, I'm going to place a Northeastern USA elementary school over here. And I'm placing this in one of these awkward parcels because it'll help fill the space. And then so that the blobbing stops, I'll replace some of the sidewalks here. And I just used the area bucket mod to replace the surfaces with the exact same surface so that they stop blobbing. And I think it looks a ton better. And in addition to that one, I'm going to add one of the urban elementary schools near the downtown area. But to make it feel different from this one over here, I don't think I'll add the rooftop add-on, just the extension wing. Next, let's focus on healthcare and deathcare because we eliminated both healthcare and deathcare in the downtown area. Near this elementary school, I'm going to add a modern medical clinic, which kind of has a similar design vernacular, though this is much more minimal, and that is really jank. But I don't want to stop there. Let's also add a clinic for this side of town, so long as we don't already have something over there. Yeah, nothing. There's a small clinic right here, right next to the hospital. That actually doesn't make any sense. I imagine that this would have been removed when this hospital was placed here. And in its place, I'm going to actually add something bigger. So we'll add the Northeastern Medical Clinic, which has a really high capacity and again, blends in with all the other buildings that I've been placing over here. And this one has an extension wing upgrade. I'm going to add it right away because it makes the building look a little bit more grand. And even though we don't need the extra capacity, it's not bad to have it. And because this is a major medical facility, I'm adding a parking lot right here, right across the street from the hospital. For Deathcare, I want to add two things. We now have a small cemetery, and it feels like that would have been in the historic part of the community. So I'm going to place that in a very prominent location. And then we'll add onto this thing. And because of this, we'll need to modify the grid in this location. But I don't want to stop there. We got rid of our biggest crematorium, so I feel like we need to add at least one. So I'm going to add this over here, kind of as the exact same design as the northeastern buildings, while still having a vaguely residential look. This crematorium is huge. It's the vanilla crematorium. It's an asset that I have such mixed emotions about because the asset itself is lovely. There's just a lot of parking and a lot going on, and I feel like these are generally smaller. Either way, we're going to place it here and add a couple of upgrades, refrigeration, an extra hearse garage, and one more incinerator. And then I'll replace the surfaces so that they're the same. And I feel like I ended up turning this into a little death campus, but it looks all right, so we're going to roll with it. Now let's switch our attention and focus on fire and rescue. And that's because we had firefighting helicopters over here and I got rid of them. I think rather than replacing that, I'm going to go with a fire station and place that in the downtown area. Now, this is a large building and really requires a fairly flat parcel. So I think I'll go with a parcel right off of University Avenue. I want to give a little bit of space for some buffering, which means that this road's going to have to slide over. And I haven't focused on this all that much up until now, but this ended up creating a really weird junction right here. I just want to make sure that we don't have a signal and that we get rid of at least one of the crosswalks right there. Maybe even two. That looks a ton better. And honestly, at all of these minor intersections, we should get rid of all of these signals. I'm going to keep it here because this is a real tangle, but none of those warrant it. I'm also going to leave a signal right here because of the trams. And interestingly, I thought that these connected. They do not. It's not necessary, but I feel like that would be there, so we're going to add it in. Now, back to the fire station. Got a couple of upgrades here. Absolutely going to add the training facilities. And we have to add the disaster response unit. We're actually missing that right now. We have 10 collapsed buildings and we can't repair any of them. We also need the helipad. And I feel like that garage extension's probably overkill, but you know what? Let's do it anyway. This is our premier fire station after all. Now there is one thing I want to modify. I can just see a world where the fire trucks exit directly onto Mosswood Street. So rather than just imagining this, let's actually make it a reality. This is a big part of it. And the other part is this, making it functional. There we go. Easy peasy, lemon squeezy, looking good. Now, I mentioned that we got rid of the firefighting helicopter depot, and I think I want to add this back, but having it in the downtown area just really doesn't make all that much sense. If we're going to add this thing, it really needs to be way out here or something like this. Yeah, that makes a ton more sense. And then the last major city service I want to add is a main police headquarters. We have one police department down here, the French one, but we don't have a large police station anywhere in Magnolia County. And you can kind of feel this when you look downtown, even without any buildings, our coverage isn't great. And I feel like this urban police headquarters is going to have a similar design to our transit facilities, or at least kind of looks similar at a passing glance. So I'm going to add this over here. And then we'll add the helipad, as well as the garage extension, which will give us 20 more police vehicles. But I don't think that that's enough. I want to add a police station over here as well. And this time around, I think I'm going to go for the UK police station, which kind of has the same red brick vibe that we have going on over here. And truthfully, we removed a bunch of UK buildings over here. It kind of feels fitting to add something back into the build. And I tried to fill out this awkward parcel by adding in landscaping and removing the fencing, and I think it did a great job. 2 more services that I want to add. The first is going to be communications towers. And yeah, we have a pretty significant deficit downtown, so this is absolutely mandatory. I'm going to add one of these SEC cell towers, which actually expand coverage quite a bit. And then in the immediate downtown area, we're going to add the modern telecom building. The only thing that's unfortunate is that this looks really jank from the front. I think I'm going to relocate this. And even though this isn't the exact orientation that I wanted, it's probably just going to work a little bit better. And that should do the trick for us. And it adds a bit of density over here. That means that we're going to have to extend more density down this way in the near future. But before we even consider that, let's add some parks. And I think I'll start over here with a large plaza because we don't really have any green space over here so far. This is also a location that I've been eyeballing because I'm not really happy with how close this facility is to University Avenue. We also got rid of the major football field over here, so I'm going to add a soccer field, and we'll place that right next to the high school, imagining that these are related facilities. Now we are disturbing the tram right here, so I think I'm going to make a slight modification of this road. And we'll just stretch that out a little bit. Didn't cause all that many problems except for right here. Looks terrible. I just thought about it. We don't have a church in Bend, and that is really unusual for a North American city. So we are going to add one, and I want this to have a really excellent vista, and I feel like something like this would do the trick. And then this has a couple of upgrades. We're absolutely going to make this thing bigger, and there's also the school. We'll add that as well. Though I'm going to hold off for a moment because as soon as I place that, I won't be able to move the church, and I feel like it could be centered a bit better. And now this isn't actually linked to the road, and I have an idea that might be silly, but we're going to try it anyway. I'm going to fill this area in, then we'll add a pedestrian road, and then I just want to find a surface that will cover this thing up. One crash later, and we now have this epic vista of the church right up what we have to call Church Street. Church Street, there we go. I'm going to sprinkle in a couple more small parks here and there, such as a dog park because everyone loves a dog park. A small park on the edge of the street right here. A passage park to break up this large block right here. A hedge park right here where we have some remnant forests. And then maybe a Parkview eatery next to that. And then I want to round things out with this really special asset. It's a city park that's upgradable. We had a big park over here, so it seems like it'd be fitting. So I'm going to go with the version that does not have parking. And this asset's by Confused Little Devil. Now, if that name sounds familiar, it's because they put together all the modular farms. So absolutely a wizard. So we can add our own features here. And I think before I add this, I'm going to do a bit of grading. And now I can easily add these additions. Now I'm finally ready to start zoning in some land uses. Now this is going to be an incredibly iterative process, and this is only the first part of it. And before I zone anything, I just want to see where we're at with unemployment. 7.9%. That's not very good, and if we're not careful, we could make it much, much, much worse. So with that context in mind, I'm going to begin with some employment type uses, and I've been eyeballing this area right here for industrial. And I know that sounds insane and absolutely crazy, but I got this new historic industrial manufacturing and warehouses zone that I've really wanted to try, and this feels like the perfect place. So let's control the zoning first. And this block is just begging to be divided in half, so we'll do it. And then I think I'm going to use platter here. Oh, I really like that. The only thing that I don't like is the smokestacks. So I think that we should get rid of those. And it's going to be easy enough. I will just zoom into the smokestacks and delete them off the object. And yeah, I think that's a ton better. It does feel like a historic factory district. And that's really what Bend has been missing in its downtown. Obviously, we should do something with the waterfront at some point, but this is a nice start. Now, to go along with these, I'm going to throw down some of Joe's industrial assets. I think behind here, we could shoehorn in some parking. And then I want to screen this area from whatever is built over here. So we'll use a wild deciduous mix and just spray some trees. Now, if you're looking for these assets, this is the Historical Industrial Pack by Mulligan. And these do actually bring a decent number of jobs, 23 right here, 44 right here, 35 right here. So in terms of unemployment, it is making a dent, although it's not as big as I'd like it to be. So let's add some offices right here. And the reason I think that that's going to be a good call is if we take a look at pollution, this probably wasn't the greatest location for the factories. We're going to be polluting the town. Thankfully, it's not too dense, but these do also generate some ground pollution and some noise. So I figure an office or commercial buffer is probably warranted. So I think I'm going to plat some office locations right here. And then I think along this road, I want to create a more historic feeling commercial district, and I have the perfect assets for this. Tris put together a whole bunch of historic Main Street feeling assets, so I'm going to plop a whole bunch of these down. My goodness, these assets are absolutely beautiful. Again, these are all by Trist. It's the multicultural pack, and it's also the Australian Historic Commercial pack. So just beautiful assets. The only issue I have with this area is right here. This looks crazy, so let's fix that. Not perfect, but perfectly fine. So before I start zoning a whole bunch of residential, I just want to take one more check at unemployment, 5.5%. That is a much better location, and that gives me the confidence to start to load these areas up. But using platter, I can make sure that I'll actually fill these areas in. And I can see for the Midwestern residential 1900s, it's not going to do all that well for us, not in these blocks anyway. It looks like the Chicago residential low is probably all that will work on this particular block. So maybe I'm just going to be context sensitive to each block, go up and down and see what's going to fit. Now, I'd really love to be able to zone some of these areas in with Midwestern residential. So I'll use the vanilla zoning tools and just disable zoning on the side streets. And this looks so much better than what used to be here. Not that the assets were bad, it's just that they were a bad fit for this build, and this just, it fits so much more. Now, one thing I wanted to point out is that I'm starting to transition the density up right here a little bit. That's why we have some larger structures right here, because I feel like this area should have more density to transition us into the downtown. So I think right here, I'd like to start to have mixed use, maybe some of the old town zoning, which I don't think that we have any of here in downtown Bend. But the problem is our zoning grid is kind of a mess down here. And even if I try to control it, I don't think I'm going to be all that successful, not without redoing everything down here. So I think this is my strategy. I'm going to fill this in with zoning. Then as things spawn in, I'm going to fill in the gaps manually and shift the buildings around a bit. And I feel like we'll probably want a bigger step up in density right here. So I'm going to be very deliberate with those asset choices, and that probably won't be something that I place today. In fact, I think I'm just starting to realize what a big project this is. So I'm going to add in a few more blocks, and then we're going to take this on in smaller areas over the next few episodes. So I just really want to see what Joe's new San Francisco assets look like. So we're going to place some right here, and I'm going to pop into Platter first so I can see the size of these. Looks like they're all 4x1s. So with that in mind, I'm going to zone some right here, and then we'll make special streets for these. My goodness, just look at these things. Joe is an absolute wizard, always putting out amazing assets, and these are no different. A bunch of San Francisco style Victorian row homes. I love these so much, and these fit a hillside build so well. So we're going to be using these all over the place in downtown, and it kind of gives you a flavor for what to expect. But I got to say, this is a big project that is going to take us quite some time. So for today, I think that we're going to leave it here because this has been an absolute monster. But I hope that you can see the vision. This is going to be a much larger community. It's going to feel like a much larger community. It's going to feel like it grew rapidly, and there's going to be just a more cohesive design. That's what I'm going for. So once again, thank you so much for joining me today. If you enjoyed this one, please hit the like button. If you're not subscribed to the channel, please consider doing so. And I want to thank you so much for your time today. There's a million things that you could have been doing. You decided to hang out with me and demolish Bend and rebuild it from the ground up. And for that, I appreciate you and I appreciate your time. Thank you so much for joining me, and thank you so much for exploring all these really fun assets with me. I can't wait to see you in the next one. Take care and bye-bye.